It watches while you sleep, but only on Tuesdays. They say that sleeping with one eye open is the best way to improve your memory. In fact, even the most trusted sources in the world of science claim that this can significantly increase your ability to memorize what you've learned during the day. But you know what? It turns out that scientists have not only been lying to us about how to improve our memory, they've also been lying about something else. Something that creeps me out just thinking about it. Imagine yourself in the following situation. You hanging out at home all by yourself, when suddenly you start hearing footsteps in the attic above you. Naturally, you think nothing of it because you live alone and don't expect anyone to be up there. Still, those footsteps keep going and make you feel uneasy. What do you do next? Of course, you go check it out for yourself. And when you do, you find that there's absolutely nothing up there. No one and nothing. You might call the police and tell them about your experience, but then you remember that they won't take you seriously and decide against it. After all, how could you prove that what you heard was not just a figment of your imagination? There were no witnesses, no signs of forced entry or struggle, and no way for anyone to have gotten into your house undetected. So you just chalk it up to a strange coincidence and try to forget about it. Now imagine the exact same scenario, except with one crucial detail. You don't hear the footsteps in your house, but while you're sleeping in your bed. How would you react in this situation? I'm willing to bet that many of you would still choose to simply ignore it. For some, this may come easily, but others might spend a sleepless night tossing and turning in bed trying to determine whether the sound was real or imagined. Then again, there are those who would probably jump out of bed, turn on all of the lights, and search their entire home, hoping to find the source of the noise. So which type of person would you consider yourself to be in this situation? The truth is that most people are likely to fall somewhere in between these three examples. For instance, 60% of women report hearing noises that they later discover were not real. On the other hand, men are far less likely to experience this phenomenon, with only 37% admitting to hearing imaginary noises. And what makes this even stranger is that those who identify themselves as paranormal believers are actually less likely to have imaginary auditory experiences than those who do not believe in such things. But that's not all. People who claim to often hear voices in their head are also more likely to have imaginary auditory experiences when compared to those who do. But here's where things get really creepy. Some people don't only hear these sounds, but they can see things too. For example, a significant number of people reported seeing shadows, figures, and faces while sleeping with their eyes open. As if that wasn't enough, approximately 28% of individuals said that they'd seen apparitions of deceased relatives, and an additional 9% claimed to have seen dead people they had never known. These findings were consistent across different age groups, suggesting that age is not a factor in determining whether or not someone has these kinds of experiences. However, there was a slight variation among age groups regarding the types of experiences they reported. For instance, those under 45 were more likely to report seeing animals, while those over 45 were more likely to report seeing human figures. But why would scientists lie about this? Well, it turns out that they didn't necessarily do so intentionally, but rather due to a lack of understanding. You see, for many years, the scientific community considered sleep paralysis to be nothing more than a temporary inability to move or speak while falling asleep or upon waking up. They believed that this condition occurred because the brain was stuck between wakefulness and sleep, which made it difficult for the individual to control their body. However, recent research suggests that sleep paralysis is actually a distinct sleep disorder characterized by a temporary inability to move or speak that occurs during REM sleep, the stage when dreams typically occur. This means that sleep paralysis can affect people at any age and is not just limited to those who have mental health conditions like anxiety or depression. In fact, Some studies suggest that nearly 8% of the population experiences sleep paralysis at least once a month. This makes it one of the most common sleep disorders out there. However, not everyone who experiences sleep paralysis will see or hear something while it's happening. According to a study conducted by C.M. Nissan and colleagues from the University of Adelaide in Australia, only 25% of participants reported seeing something during sleep paralysis episodes. Another 46% admitted to hearing something, while 29% felt something and 21% smelled something unusual. Additionally, 30% claim to have experienced all 4 hallucinations at the same time, which explains why some people report seeing, hearing, feeling, and smelling different things when they have sleep paralysis. What's even scarier is that some people have these kinds of experiences without having sleep paralysis at all. That's right! Around 12% of women and 3% of men claim to see things while sleeping with one eye open. And researchers believe that these numbers may be even higher due to Why? Well, because many people who experience these events tend to dismiss them as unimportant or insignificant. Consequently, they rarely report them to medical professionals or participate in research studies. But why do some people see things while sleeping with one eye open? Scientists don't have a definitive answer yet, but they have some theory. One possibility is that it's a result of hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations, which are common during the transition between wakefulness and sleep. These hallucinations can be visual, auditory, tactile, or even olfactory. Some researchers hypothesize that hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations occur due to the brain's attempt to process sensory information while it is changing states, leading to a misinterpretation of stimuli in the environment. Others suggest that these hallucinations may arise from the activation of certain brain regions that are responsible for processing visual and auditory information during sleep. But here's where things get even crazier. Some people who claim to see things while sleeping with one eye open insist that what they see is not a hallucination. Instead, they believe that they are actually witnessing real-world events that are somehow hidden from view during the day. This phenomenon is known as clairvoyance and is considered to be a form of extrasensory perception, or ESP. Clairvoyance is the purported ability to perceive events, objects, or images that are not physically present to the ordinary senses. Despite numerous studies on ESP, there is no scientific evidence to support its existence. Many scientists argue that claims of clairvoyance are either based on coincidence, faulty reasoning, or outright fraud. In fact, the scientific community widely rejects the idea that clairvoyance or any other form of ESP is real. So, if what these people are seeing is not a hallucination, then how do we explain it? Well, one possibility is that they are experiencing a form of déjà vu, which is a French term that roughly translates to already seen. Déjà vu is a phenomenon that has been reported throughout history and is characterized by a feeling of familiarity with an event or situation that has never before been experienced. Some researchers believe that déjà vu occurs due to the brain's attempt to process information from multiple sensory modalities simultaneously, leading to a misinterpretation of the stimuli in the environment. Others suggest that déjà vu may arise from the activation of certain brain regions that are involved in memory retrieval, and that these areas are mistakenly triggered by current stimuli. Another explanation is that these people may be experiencing something called cryptomnesia, which is a form of unconscious plagiarism. Cryptomnesia occurs when a person unknowingly copies another person's words or ideas and then forgets that they did so. This can happen because the brain sometimes processes information in ways that we are not consciously aware of. So when these people report seeing things while sleeping with one eye open, they may actually be remembering something that they saw or read without realizing it. But here's where things get even weird. Some researchers hypothesize that these experiences may be linked to a phenomenon known as the Mandela effect, which refers to a situation in which a large number of people share a false memory of a specific event or detail. The Mandela effect is named after a survey conducted in 2009 in which a researcher asked a group of volunteers if they remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the late 1980s. At the time, this was widely reported in the media and many people believed it to be true. However, the researcher was surprised to find that almost two-thirds of the participants in his survey incorrectly recalled Mandela dying in prison, when, in reality, he was released in 1990 and lived until 2013. Since then, many other examples of the Mandela effect have been documented, such as people who remember the Monopoly man wearing a top hat, when in reality he has always worn a monocle. So could it be possible that some people are seeing things while sleeping with one eye open, and that the rest of us are simply misremembering what we saw? Well, it's certainly a fascinating idea, and one that has captured the attention of many. However, as of now, there is no concrete evidence to support this theory. Nevertheless, it serves as a reminder that there is still much that we do understand about the human brain and that our perception of reality is not always accurate. Well, friends, we've reached the end of another video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more amazing content. Until next time, stay curious and keep asking questions.